Hello, everyone. Good evening, good day, good morning, depending upon where you are in the world. My name is Michael Gibson, and I'm your host today. Here at Norm Therapy, we have this special time today with some fantastic people. And Socialization of Abuse, this podcast was designed just to have conversations with people who work at the organization, people who are peripheral and supportive of our organization, just so we can get a format going and developed during this time so we can start talking more about abuse, more about what happens out in the world, and bring some real world situations in for you to parse as an audience. And of course, comment on, and we can see if we can make headway of dealing with victims and survivors worldwide. This is what that will be all about here in the future. But now I want you to just get to know some of our norm therapists. We've had plenty on our norm therapists, some of our administrators, our leadership in the organization to find out who we are and what we represent and why we're doing what we do. Norm therapy is a revolutionary interviewing process where we painstakingly, I want to use that word carefully, we enlist your support to get into your past, get into your present, and go with you towards your future to help you to discern yourself. And we use a myriad of techniques in order to do that, most of which have been, of course, developed by me over the past 3 decades and been put in implementation on a broad and commercial scale since about 2018. We've had tremendous success with norm therapy. And remember, it's not my normal we're talking about, or Kelly, the global executive director, is normal, or excuse me, Bob down the street's normal. It's your normal. How do you know normal if you've never known normal? If you've been abused, and if you've been hurt or constantly denigrated, or you have narcissistic people and a certain level of narcissism around you all the time, from the workplace to home to school, if you've been bullied, if you've been sexually abused, if you've been psychologically or emotionally abused, chances are you're going to put yourself in a set of circumstances where you're going to continue to hurt, you're going to continue to find pain in your life, and you're going to continue to fall into circles of people who are narcissists, who are out to hurt you. And they convert you into things like a people pleaser. There's a difference between a person who pleases people and a person who's a people pleaser. And a person who is a people pleaser is a person who, you walk in and they go, hey, sure, give me a hat, give me a coat. You want anything to eat? Can I get you a bottle of wine? Do you want me to go down the store and get you some beer? Would you like me to get you a soda? Do you want a cup of tea? And kind of a busybody approach. However, there's a difference between a person who acts like that normally, can't wait to serve you, and just, love to please people. And then there's the people pleaser. And the difference between the two is one enjoys it and it's healthy for them to be accommodating to others. And the other person is hurting inside because they're afraid to lose those relationships. They're afraid to lose that another situation or that particular situation that they've all grown so accustomed, but they see no appreciation in return, hardly a thank you. But for fear of losing people in their lives, they're willing to take that pain. So we'll talk more about that. But we have a young lady with us today. She's an amazing human being. She's been with our organization the last few years with the nonprofit. She has suffered some tremendous bouts in her life, truly tremendous. And it's been a fight for her, but she came to the organization and volunteered her time and just thrived. She was born with a cerebral palsy, and everything in life has been an uphill battle for her. But she has excelled beyond most people's imagination, and I'm very proud to introduce, without any further ado, Dezne Fraser. Dezne, if you're there, come on in. Is he there? Are you there, Destiny?
The video will not start.
Okay, well, no problem. Let me see if I can start it for you. Uh, let's see. There's Destiny. Look, did you see that? It's
Yeah.
okay. Come on in. I didn't know I could do that. No, there you go. Well, how are you, Desi? Sorry about the technical difficulties. Sometimes that happens. This is live, so we will make mistakes. And you know what? I think mistakes in any live scenario always bring a certain set of authenticity and uniqueness to the podcast. So we can just make our mistakes and then keep on rolling on, and I think we'll be fine. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good. That's
And
good.
that was my mistake because I turned your video off. So uh I'll say blame for that one. That's me. You know, Zoom is a great platform. It really is. But I think we're going to switch to just YouTube with some special software with just YouTube here in the future. So it's more manipulable and I can bring up graphics and all kinds of stuff. And I wish we could do that with Zoom. We probably can if any listener or viewer out there can see how to help us with that. Please chime in and or send a message to victims at abuserefuge.com. I'm sorry, forgive me, abuserefuge.org. Victims at abuserefuge.org. Just send it over there and somebody will get it and get the instructions over to me. So, Destiny, tell us something. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
Wow, this is good. Can you do me a favor, a personal favor? Can you tell our audience about you and in very specific terms? It's okay. Just have a conversation with our audience. Tell us about
Okay. Well, since I was born in 1985, on October the 24th, I was born with, cerebral palsy, and that was caused, because I was like a premature, and I only like weighed like 2 pounds, and the doctors were telling my mom that, like, we're not sure that, your child is going to like really like, survive. And I almost, didn't make it into this world, but I think my mom was probably like, praying, when she was like in labor for me to survive. And somehow I was able to make it. And I was able to survive like through like the whole like labor process.
it.
And and then I was like in the like hospital and that sort of thing, and my mom was there, and then like she like took me home and that sort of thing. And like from birth to like throughout like preschool to like elementary school, um I basically like had to like use like a wheelchair and crutches and braces and that sort of thing. And
A pretty
throughout like,
tough upbringing then. Pretty tough as a small child. You had it pretty rough then compared to the
yeah,
other kids.
yeah. I pretty much, throughout like my early childhood, because of my, physical condition, I had to like have like a lot of like, medical surgeries, to get my body like fixed, in a certain way. So, throughout like my early childhood, I was always in the hospital because I had to get like surgery and that sort of thing.
I
So
understand. I understand.
yeah. And then like throughout like my like elementary school, I was like placed like in like one elementary school, um placed like in like special education
Mhm.
in like my early elementary school days. And then like for like my middle school days, I was also placed in like special education, as well as like when I entered into high school, um I was also placed in special education because, of
Of
my
your condition.
yeah, because of my condition. So throughout like, elementary school, middle school, high school, I was like in a disability program with other kids that were, disabled like me, and we were like in classes and that sort of thing, and we did like different activities with the teachers and stuff like that. But when I turned like 18 years old, I was surrounded, in a, office with like, my, admissions counselor, my guidance counselor for high school, and like the principal and different, doctors and
Mm-hmm.
people surrounded me in a meeting in like high school. And my mom was there, and they were pretty much telling my mom, they were like, we're not sure if your daughter is going to be able to go to like college. And
So were you being ostracized in some way from the
yeah,
university?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
talk about
like,
discrimination. But
yeah,
but you did get into college
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
graduated. And tell me, how was that? I mean, you got through the initial filter of them telling you you cannot make it and you wouldn't be eligible for college because of your condition, but yet you surpassed their expectation and got into college anyway, correct?
Yeah, correct, correct.
Okay. How were your grades?
My grades were, I would say, my grades were pretty average. When I started, I had like, I would say my grades were like my grades were like A, B, C, sort of like average. I didn't get like, I wasn't getting like, straight A's, but like, I was getting pretty much, like A's, B's, C's, and D's in
Can
there.
you
So, yeah.
can you tell me how does cerebral palsy affect learning?
I would say that cerebral palsy affects you like your motor skills, where you're not able to, walk effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you're not able to move your body like normally, like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And also the cerebral palsy also affects your speech and the way that you communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
So you
that
had to taught you've had to teach yourself all of this. Oh wow.
Well,
Whoa.
when I was like in my early school days, I had to get like a lot of like, speech therapy,
Mhm.
from like speech therapists to help me with like my speech, and that sort of thing.
Wow. Okay, so now you're post college and you're out in the world. Are you still confined to a wheelchair from time to time?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Is that a permanent thing?
I would say, yes.
Okay, so your mobility is somewhat hampered. You see, I'm saying all this for a reason. I'm trying to paint a picture for our audience. And so, how did you discover this organization that you are volunteering for? How did you discover Abuse Refuge or what happened?
I found out about you all when I applied to your organization through Indeed. That's
Okay,
how I like
the
I found
job
out.
board, the job board.
Yeah.
And so, what did you think? Okay, first impression, you're looking at the job board, you see this position for what did you initially come in for? A coordinator or something?
I would say like research assistant or something.
Okay, yeah, it was a research project that we were doing. We were looking for
Yeah.
people on that. And boy, when you research, you don't, anyway, that's a whole nother thing. You don't play. You get in, you get volumes of information when you do research. But um, tell me, as a potential member of the organization, what did you think about our interviewing process over at Arrow and Norm Therapy? What did you think of it?
I thought it was like very like authentic and modern and very like, transparent. I mean, you all just like, just talked about any type of like topic, and it was so open, and it was very like, it was just very like expressive. And I just view like the interview process to be very transparent and open and expressive. And it's different from like the traditional therapy, where it's like a little bit like, mundane and just a little, it's like it's a little bit too
Almost boring.
clinical. Yeah, yeah,
Clinical.
yeah,
How,
yeah.
how about Kelly Dean, our global executive director? Tell us what you think about Kelly. How has she
Um,
been with you?
I think that she is like, I think that like Kelly Dean is such like an inspiration because she's such an example of like, how to be professional. And she's like, she's just like, you know, she's just also an example of like how to present yourself in the right way.
She exudes
Um,
confidence, doesn't
yeah.
she? She exudes confidence. One of the things I love about Kelly, the whole environment at Arrow. Can you tell people just a little no? Because we're doing it from the perspective of the norm therapists. We're doing it from the perspective of the people that work with our organization for now until we start bringing in other eclectically different kinds of people to come in the future. But how is the working environment at Abuse Refuge? How is it to you? If you had to give it an assessment, what would you say?
I would say like the working environment is very like I feel that like it's very like flexible and it's very like optional as well, like in the working environment I just feel like that we all get to have like options to decide how like we want to do things and I feel like it's a very I feel like the working environment is also like a very friendly type of like environment and like because I don't see that in like other organizations that I've joined in the past, other organizations that I've joined in the past, it's a little bit like those organizations that I joined in the past, it's a little bit too serious, but I feel like this organization is very friendly.
You're one of my favorite people in the organization, by the way. I tell everybody that all the time. You have this tenacity and this drive, and you have purpose. I see it, and everyone who's ever met you, especially in the organization, sees that you fight every day for your existence, and you make it known that you're a part of the team, and we appreciate that, and we know that. So, with that being said, what do you think led you to want to become a norm therapist? Because most people just looking at your title can't see. They see NTISL4, but they don't know that means norm therapy intake specialist level 4. You're a graduate of the norm therapist training program. Tell me something. How was that something that you decided you would like to do?
Um, I wanted to do it because I wanted to try something different from like, what I've been used to because in the past, within like, my past training, I was used to like, counseling, families and, children and teenagers and that sort of thing in the more traditional sense, like within like, my background. So, for this organization now, I wanted to try something, different that I've never tried before. Because when I decided to apply for like this organization for Indeed, I was like, okay, this is something new and this is something that I've never tried before and that I've never explored. So I wanted to explore it. So I wanted to just become a norm therapist, to try something different and explore something different that I've never, really done before and, get my hands in the process of the training to like learn how to, like, give like, interviews to like, victims and survivors of abuse.
Let me ask you a question. At the organization and with anyone with whom you're in contact in the organization, do you feel that you have a voice?
Yes, yes.
Tell us about that experience. Do you feel like you and others at the organization have a voice?
Yeah, yes. I feel that like, I feel that within our organization, I have the option to be able to express myself the way that I, want to, and there's no like, limitations. And, there's also like, no judgment. So it's like, I feel like, it's like just like it's just like a place where you can just be open and just, express yourself, and it's like, judge free.
Well, I'm glad you echoed what I was thinking. Just for the audience sake, I'll say that everyone who comes to Arrow or Norm Therapy has a voice. We champion their issues. If they come up with something, if we're not doing it, we'll look at it and say, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Maybe we'll implement that in 2 quarters from now, or a month from now, or maybe next week. Or we'll say, well, we've already tried that and it doesn't work, but this is what we're doing now to replace it. And we get people involved to whereas when they, if you come up with a better way of doing something for our organization, we will adopt that. But it'll take a little bureaucracy of us getting to make sure that all departments can make sense of it. But once that happens, we move rather quickly on making that a part of our doctrine, our policy, and everything else. Wouldn't you say that's the case?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. I want people to get your perspective on it. In your therapy, do you swim?
I would say
Or you have to think about
no.
Do you like the water?
Yeah, yes, I do. I do like the water. Yes, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So can you swim?
No, no, no.
Okay, okay. I swim like a fish. I mean, I can get in the water and stay there all day and swim oceans, lakes, you name it, rivers. I love to swim. When you finally knew that now you're an adult and you still suffered from a malady, when you wake up in the morning, what does your day look like with this cerebral palsy and the stigma, as well as the physical limitations are concerned? What does that look like for you every day? If you can share that with us.
I would say, like, it becomes a bit of like a challenge every day because it becomes a challenge because sometimes, like, I'm not able to, like, physically, like, move around all the time and, like, walk around my house all the time. And I have to get like assistance from like my family members a lot for them to help me to like walk around and that sort of thing.
Your mobility.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long have you been with our organization?
I would say I've been with, our organization since January of 2022.
Wow. Okay, you got a couple years going on your belt. So this is good. A little of that. So, okay, watch this. When you decided to become a norm therapist, was it easy?
No, you definitely took us through a drill and
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's a very difficult course. People think that, well, they don't always think that. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but some people who thought over time that it was like you go to a seminar, you get a certificate, and you're good to go. I mean, it's actual classroom instruction for hours and hours a week, and it's like a 4-year degree condensed into 5 months, if you will. And I think it's a very powerful course. I think it. What was your favorite part of norm therapy training? If I want to ask, what was it?
My favorite part was the lie detection, because I thought it was just so interesting how it was being taught. And I got like so excited about like the whole norm therapy app and like how it was just like created, and just like how, like, in the future we're going to be using the like norm therapy app, to like help, like, victims, with like abuse and to
Mhm.
like, and to like, use a lot of like lie detection within like our process, as well as like, the whole process of like, artificial intelligence. So that's like my favorite part.
Oh, well, I'm happy. Okay, you're in the innovative part of things. I like that. I think that is predictive of us. I mean, it's very predictive for us to extrapolate where we're going to go in the future. I think it's necessary that we speak in the lips of our listeners, as well as our patients, as well as our constituents or peers and colleagues. And I think it's important that we do that. I um, I think where we're going next, especially with all the technology that's out there, is we'd like to have like and we're working on funding on this in this very moment, as a matter of fact. We're working on putting ourselves in a position where we can automate a lot of what we do so we can get the right norm therapist aligned with the right person. Did you know, of course you know this, but I'm saying it for our audience sake, like as if you didn't know it, but since this is an authentic interview, I want to keep it as real as we possibly can. In that most people don't know that 16% of the entire global population are the only people who are being really seen and catered to by the mental health and other healthcare facilities. So what happens to the other 84% of the people around the world? You know, and norm therapy is there. I think norm therapy addresses issues that are not mental health oriented issues per se. You have abuse, not that you have abuse, but you have been bullied. You have been hurt throughout the years by people emotionally and psychologically. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. Like, when I was like at my university, several years ago, I experienced, some bullying, within like the university. And, that like traumatized me, a whole lot. And, I had to like leave the university, and then like, I had to like seek like, some I had to like seek some therapy, with different therapists and counselors and that sort of thing, to to work out, the traumatic situation that I experienced at my university, in that sort of like process. So I had to like get like some self healing, to like sort out like some of my issues and that sort of thing.
I'm sorry you had to go through all that. And I'm sure if you could, you would go into it more, but we don't have to. So university wasn't the best experience, but it wasn't the worst either, correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And you had to overcome some adversity and through therapy and to find yourself. That's very normal. How do you feel about your university days as you look back? How do you feel?
Um, I thought it was okay. The one like, lesson that I learned from it though was like, um that like, it just like taught me to like have like, tough skin on like how to like deal with the, people. And it just like taught me it just like also like, taught me, about like, the reality of like, the real world, and how to like deal with certain like friends and people, and how to like handle like, relationships, and that sort of thing. So that university level really like, prepared me for like, the reality of like the real world, because I had to like live on campus to like, learn how to like be in like a campus like, apartment sort of thing.
Mhm.
So that like prepared me like a little bit for like, adulthood a little bit. I still have to like, really like, continue to fully prepare myself for like adulthood still. But like, that university level, really prepared me for like, the reality of like, life
Right.
and adult, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So with that being said, as your foundation for starting into womanhood, if you will, Tell me something. How has norm therapy prepared you for your future?
Um, I would say that it it has prepared me to learn about pretty much what business is about, what the corporate business is about, and business development, and also learning about professionalism, and um and also learning about what a company is about, and just the whole culture of what really a company is about, and how to conduct yourself in a real company. And I think norm therapy in the future is going to prepare me on how to be a certified professional on how to deal with victims and survivors of abuse, and how to conduct myself in the appropriate professional way in the future, when we get funding, and we get salaries and that sort of thing.
I understand. Okay. Let me ask you a question, and this is important. So, as a norm therapist, most people don't know that you're a norm therapist. So, as a norm therapist, um, do you feel like you have more courage now, more insight in life about people? Uh, do you feel that way?
Yes. I feel that being a norm therapist, it has helped me to point out certain people's behavior, and it has taught me how to learn how to detect lies, because when I'm around my family members, or friends and people that I know, I can easily detect when someone is lying, and I can easily point it out.
Wow. See, that is a superpower, I think. Most people encounter problems in life because they can't depend upon the veracity or the words of the people around them. They can't depend on the truth. And I think that with being armed with the ability to detect deception, it leaves you in a pretty good decision of who you need to deal with and who not. Sometimes your family members and your friends will lie to you. And it's normally not because they're bad people or because they're liars. It's because normally they're trying to protect you or protect themselves or not be embarrassed or not embarrass you or whatever. So there's a myriad of reasons why people lie. And I'm glad she pointed that out, that you can detect and call people out, but I'm sure you have some pretty spirited conversations as a result. Am I correct?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, and they're like, oh, Destiny's doing her lie detection thing right now. So that's a good thing, though. That's a good thing that you have that superpower. One of the things we like to say when it comes to norm therapists, that any of our norm therapists should be able to walk into a room and read the room. Not be actually 100% correct, but have a general idea who's together, who's not, who supports one another, who's lying to each other, who's probably cheating on one another. These kinds of things that we'll be able to see just based on our training and based on how life normally operates. I normally tell people, Dezne, and I think you've heard me say this many times, is that there's only so many responses to things in life. Only so many. So if there's a finite number of responses, then there must be a finite number of things that can happen to you. People like to think that it's an infinite amount because it's pertaining to them. And so they don't see the hundreds of other varying degrees of what's happening to them. They don't see it. They only see exactly what happens to them within this linear graph of what's happening out there. But pain is pain. So that's one thing. A lot of people will categorize it as 50 things, like pain of loss, pain of love, pain of hatred, pain of not eating, pain of whatever it may be. They classify it as 50 different pains when it's just pain. And it is just in context, it's different. So at norm therapy, we look at, since there are a finite number of things that happen, pain, love, honor, respect, integrity, learning, understanding. Since there's a finite number of things that happens, divorce, marriage, stay together, don't, we know that we can pretty much apply most norm therapy principles to just about every situation. Not that they will be the same at all. Every circumstance warrants a different set of metrics in order to resolve or to deal with those circumstances. But I just wanted to carry that out. You have been excellent as staying on point. Your sense of loyalty to our organization has been exemplary. It really has. Everybody in the company loves you to death. You're an amazing woman. And we look forward to having you out there in the norm therapy world, more than likely working with people who have been abused, but of a community like the disabled or the physically or mentally impaired. I think that is a community you will be working with. And so I wanted to just share that with the audience and make sure they understood where we were coming from. So tell me, what are some of your hobbies?
Um, I I like to read. I like to do writing. I like to watch movies, listen to music. I
What
like
kind of
to
movies do you
draw.
like before I let you just ramble on with the
I like
enumeration?
I like sci-fi movies, mystery movies. I like romantic comedy movies.
What's your
Um,
favorite romantic comedy? What is it?
um, I would say what's the wedding planner with Jennifer Lopez.
Okay, and it was Jennifer Lopez. Was that the one with Kevin Hart, or was it no? She was the wedding planner. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think I saw that. That was a cute movie, and I don't even like these kind of movies that much, but that was a good movie. If I'm going to say a romance kind of movie, one that really resonated with me was the Julia Roberts one with the guy from Notting Hill, whatever. Hope I got it right. I'm not sure. I don't know if you saw that one or not, but it was a pretty decent movie. You fall in love with somebody and you can't be with them because they're a big movie star. I think it was that premise or something like that, and it kind of resonated. Anyway, that's me rambling. I really don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to that. So, what do you think of me?
I think that you're very like astute, very professional, and you're very like driven, and you're like well mannered. You're very well cultured. So
Well, thank you. I listen. You just made my day. I don't think many people use the word culture with me. No, I'm just kidding. Of course it did. But yeah, I thank you for the compliment. And I think the world of you. I wanted to get your opinion of me, not for tit for tat, but just to set the mood. One of the things I love about you, Dezne, is you never quit. You have such a tenacious drive. Even if sometimes you're going down the wrong path, you will back yourself up and find the right path and move on. Most people with all of their faculty, without cerebral palsy or mobility issues, cannot do that. And it's a shame, not because they should be shamed for it, but because there's not enough people out there like you that can motivate them into a path that's more useful in their lives. I think norm therapy is like saying, when I hear the phrase norm therapy now, I hear life 101. Just that life course in college, life 101. Some people need to take the life 101 course just one more time because they missed out on a lot on their trek and in their journeys. They just did. And that's why they find themselves in these narcissistic relationships. They find themselves in relationships where people are abusing them, or they're taking their money or their time, or they're manipulating them, or they've been abused as a child. There's an underlying thread to all abuse in the entire world. No matter what kind of abuse it is, there's an underlying thread, and that's fear. Fear is the underlying linking thread to all abuse. There has to be an element of fear for it to be abuse, from bullying, from self-abuse, to of course, psychological, child, and other, there's an element of fear by one of the parties or both. I tell people all the time, people will only ever do to you what you let them get away with. I say that again. People will only ever try to do things to you that they think they can get away with. Are people around you these days, peripheral to your family, not necessarily family because I know they support you, but that are trying to take advantage of you, but you won't let them because now you prepared?
I would say, I would say, like as far as like those that would take advantage of, I think that like I would like need to like really be careful of like certain young men that I would like pretty much encounter, and I would need to be careful to like look out for like some of the red flags from
Mm-hmm.
certain men, because there are certain men out there that would really take advantage of like women like me. And
Vulnerable, you're thinking? Women like you who are vulnerable, is what you're saying?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, being physically impaired and then also having that stigma of having had to get therapy and then also not being not just physically, but mentally all there all the time, even though you are, to me, there. Um, I cannot wait to put you in uh, sessions with victims and survivors. But it has to be a select class of victim and survivor. And you need just a few more interviews in Overwatch in order to be able to do it. Because a lot of people don't know that we take our norm therapists through an Overwatch process where they sit in with a senior norm therapist and learn from the senior norm therapist before they're let loose on the general public. And of course, uh, providing that care, that abuse care, all by yourself. But we're working towards that, Dezne, and soon you'll be in that category. So you're doing a great job till now. I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of questions from the audience here. And one of the questions I want to ask you about is human trafficking. In your estimate, how is human trafficking changing the landscape of society these days?
Um, I think, it's, giving us an awareness of how bad it is, because there are certain like people in our community, as well as like even people in like certain industries that really like, take advantage of like women and use them for like, use them as like prostitutes to,
Mhm.
sell them for money and that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And because for example, there has been like a recent case. I don't want to mention his name though, but he's well known in the music industry right
Well, I
now.
know who it is. We can mention his name, P. Diddy.
Okay,
I actually
okay,
know him.
yeah,
I've met him a few times. So, um, yeah, P. Diddy, he's a well-known case. Um, I saw his interview. I saw it. Did you see it when
yeah,
he
yeah, yeah.
confessed? What was the point you were going to make with that?
I was gonna say that, like, we all, didn't realize, like, like that he was pretty much, like that, because he put on like this facade that, like, he's, this well-known business mogul. And then, like, we didn't know that, like, behind the scenes that he's doing all this, dirty work and this dirty stuff. So it pretty like, surprised me that, like, he is like this to, his girlfriend and that. So
Well, here's what I say about that. I think that we oftentimes rush to judge, even though what he did was egregious and it was horrible. And I watched the tape a few times. What I also saw is a person who actually lies to himself daily to convince himself that he is capable of these types of atrocities on others without remorse or without any kind of reprisal. I think he's convinced himself through conditioning to believe that what he did was okay. that doesn't excuse it by any stretch of the imagination. But I don't think traditional therapy can help him other than making him recognize what he did. And of course, forgiving himself and looking for forgiveness in others, because what he did was wrong. What his real problem is that somehow or another he thought it was right at the time. You don't just make those kinds of gestures or perform how, as he did in the tape without believing that you were in the right or had. Remember what I just said? I just said that people will only ever do to you what they think they can get away with. He thought he could get away with that. Let's say the cameras weren't on. He would have probably gotten away with beating her senseless. But at least the cameras were there to illustrate a point that once you're caught, then you find remorse. That can't be true, because remorse sets in after you've committed something already. So to say that you're a changed person as a result of something you realized was wrong is probably not the route he should be going. What he needs to do is totally revamp how he thinks and believes and what he believes about women and respect, and of course, the appreciation of others, not just women, but men too. And because if you treat your woman that way, imagine how you treat your employees, or how you treat your dog or cat, or how you treat others in your peripheral in your life. If that's the way you treat the person closest to you, supposedly the woman of your life, and just imagine how bad it is for everyone else. He may be a tyrant as a boss. He may be, insufferable of a person to be around. But no one ever stops to tell him that, hey, brother, you're wrong. And that's, I think, what caused and will continue to cause those kinds of scenarios in his life if he doesn't get it out in front of it and start looking at the truth about himself. That's what I don't think he's doing. Because I watched his interview, I watched his body language, I watched his eyes, I watched all the different moves he was making, his imaginary spot in his head, how he was looking at that often. And I think he was lying. That's my professional opinion. But it also means that he believes he's telling the truth. But I can tell if he were sitting in a norm therapy session, I would tell him what he's lying about and why. And once he hears the why and what, he'll, of course, debate it and deny it. But at some point, he'll have to agree that it wasn't as sincere as he wanted it to be. Did you feel the same thing as a norm therapist when you saw that, or what did you feel?
I felt that he gave us like this facade that he was this tough person, but then he also gave us like an idea of his past things that he did in the industry, where he was hanging around certain women in the industry and doing all kinds of inappropriate things within the industry. So in the beginning of when he started his career and that sort of thing, there was a pattern of some of the inappropriate things that he was doing in the industry. And those patterns told us what he would in the future do to now his girlfriend now. And now everything that he's done in the dark is now being exposed
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Okay, now we're nearing the end. We're about 10 minutes before we end, and this is normally the time when I stop and I say, we have some more questions from the audience. Would you like to take a couple questions?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first someone says, you radiate positivity, Dezne. Where does it come from?
I would say my positivity it pretty much comes from my faith, and what I believe, my spiritual beliefs, that's where it comes from. It comes from because my spirituality is very, it's a very peaceful, loving, harmonious type of spirituality that I've been practicing for like years.
Hmm.
So that's what it is.
Well, having faith is probably one of um, the most important aspects of a person's life is to have faith. And if it isn't faith in God, have faith in something bigger than you, because people practice a lot of things in the world. And I think that when you practice and you have something bigger than you, it's oftentimes easy for you to follow suit and be that happy person or be that positive person that radiates. You exude positivity, you really do. So, what advice would you give to those who have disabilities and what keeps you going? What advice would you give people who have disability and also what keeps you going?
I would say, for those that have, disabilities like me, I would say, keep moving forward, work hard, and stay strong.
What keeps you going?
I would say, what keeps me going is my drive, my resilience, as well as like, my determination.
Well, then you got my vote there. That's a good one. Um, I love this interview. Okay, so what makes you passionate to help victims and survivors of abuse?
I would say what makes me passionate is, I have the compassion to see when people are suffering, and it just gives me the desire to reach out to help them, when I see them suffering, and I just don't want to leave them to just suffer, but I want to reach out and do something as soon as possible so that they can be rescued, and um
You
you
want to
know
mitigate that abuse.
mhm. Yeah.
Okay, I understand. I understand. I don't want to run out of time before we get through all the questions. We got 8 minutes left, so this is good. Tell me, uh, what is the most important lesson you've learned about yourself over the past couple of years? The most important lesson you've learned about you?
I would say, just to like, learn to just, be your authentic self and to just be true to yourself, as well as like also to just like, learn to like, love yourself a lot more. So I think that's like one of the things that like, I'm like have been learning, throughout like, all these years is to, be authentic to myself, as well as like, truly, find a lot of ways to like, love myself more.
Well, I think self-preservation is number one, and part of self-preservation is loving you. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. What is your favorite book? Can you tell me?
Um, my like favorite, favorite book that, I did, used to read when I was younger from like my past, was a whole lot of like, Nancy Drew, mystery books. I don't like, I'm not like, quite sure if those books, still exist, but I
Yes, they
did.
do.
Oh, they do.
Nancy Drew, they're in paperback and I think hardcover and all over the world in many different languages. Um, but yeah, that's a great volume to read. What was so special about Nancy Drew?
I think, within like the mystery stories, it was very like interesting to like, find out, some of like the clues, to like some of like the mysteries, and like, how to like solve, some of the mysteries.
So so depuzzling life, in other
Yeah,
words.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Not
yeah,
too bad, not too bad at all. Yeah,
yeah.
I love to read too. I love fiction and nonfiction. I really do. I enjoy both. Uh, Sometimes nonfiction is boring to me, believe it or not. And but fiction, I oftentimes love the sci-fi genre as well when I read. I remember reading this one book some years, this novel one, it's called The Doomsday Spiral, I think it was, by John Land. I think it was, yeah, The Doomsday, I think it was John Land. But where they took everybody on a trip through time and space and people and understandings and tragedy and adventure. If it doesn't have those elements for me, I'm just not interested. What about you?
I would say that, like, I like, a lot of, like, fictionary, fantasy, like mystery type of like books as well. Um, the like true life stories, true life stories. I do like it.
Me too, but yeah.
I do like some of the true life stories.
Documentaries as well. You like
Yeah,
documentaries?
documentaries. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I do too. I didn't expect you to be so darn versatile, even though I've talked to you all the time. And I really have enjoyed your conversation today. I mean, you're an amazing person. With all that you have gone through and bullying and quite a few other things in your life, as well as having to educate yourself all over again at each stage of your life, and to have to prove yourself over and over to people over the years. I think having the status of a norm therapist will one day mean a lot to you because we're continually growing the organization, and we're gonna convert norm therapy and norm therapist status into something very prestigious, if not already. But it's going to really mean something to be a norm therapist. And you have been a stellar pioneer, especially for the community of disabled people and people with limited abilities. I think you would be an excellent advocate, if you don't mind me pigeonholing you over there, to that community, because I think that when people can't help themselves, remember one of our norm therapists who has limited mobility said that he was abused all the time and hurt and left without eating. He couldn't feed himself. People would leave him, in destitute places and situations where he didn't get any food, or he didn't get bathed, or he didn't get turned over. And that was quite devastating for him. So with a person like you who actually care about people out front in that industry, I'm going to be very, 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 very proud to add you to the leadership of that opportunity once we unveil it. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Wonderful. Listen, everybody, I enjoyed our sessions today with Dezne. You're going to close us out, Dezne, so let me finish. I enjoyed our session. I think she's an amazing human being. I could speak to her for hours. We do so much at Arrow, Abuse Refuge Org, and Norm Therapy that, it's too vast to even enumerate here. But it seemed like Dezne is always involved in some aspect or some part of that. And so I'm very proud of you and happy to have you on board. And your longevity and time spent with the organization is exemplary. We know that we want more people like you to come on board. And we'd like to have you help nurture them along to get them to where they're enjoying what we do as well. We have a long and productive life ahead of us when it comes to norm therapy. So get ready, Dezne. And if you had anything to say to our audience before we close out, what would that be?
I would say, to just, I would say, to just, like, make an impact on the world and, make a difference.
Well, then I like that. Let me read this so we can get out of here. If you've enjoyed and got something out of today's session, please show us your support by sharing this video and our other videos, subscribing to our channel, writing something, of course, and liking it. Please go to goarrow.org, that's GOARO.org, and normtherapy.com to explore our opportunities and seek help for yourself or for someone needing our services. If you're interested in applying to participate in our live sessions as a guest or some victim or survivor, please email us at, contact@normtherapy.com. Also, if you'd like to become a norm therapist, please send your interest in an email to that same address, contact@normtherapy.com. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again on Thursday, May 23rd at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I'll be interviewing Aaron Farag. Aaron Farag, wonderful human being. I've had a meeting with her before. She's a really amazing lady. You're going to enjoy her. She's a special projects intern at Arrow. and to be on the topic of psychological abuse and its presence in everyday life. That should be exciting. Dezne, I thank you for being here. I've been waiting on this interview for a while. Thank you. Have a good time, okay, and a good day. Say goodbye to our audience. There you go.